which is I've got the problem. Now I got to figure out and find the resources to be able to go out and solve that problem. And AI is such a great resource to help, with that problem solving direction to find that solution.
Is the best model what education needs? Is the newest, greatest model what education needs? Or is it something that kind of like fosters learning and fosters collaboration and fosters like what we were talking about earlier, like the desire to learn?
I love your tagline, educate education. That was one of the things I noted right away. I said, "Why this young guy? He's bold. That's a powerful statement." Hello and welcome to the Future is Clear Teach Like It's 2045 webcast series. My name is Scott Carr from CESA 2. Today's topic area is using AI to stretch your skills with career, community, and life readiness. Joining us today is Zach Kenizler. Zach is originally from Bozeman, Montana, and just graduated from the University of San Diego with an undergraduate degree in industrial engineering and a master's degree in business analytics. He is now the head of academic sales strategies for BoodleBox and lives in Detroit, Michigan. I came across Zach on Rachel Mann's NCLA podcast, Education series. Rachel Mann is a real thought leader in our space and does a lot of consulting in CTE and also is a part of Catapult. So since then, Zach and I have been able to connect. It's great to have you along, Zach. Really interested in what we're going to talk about today. AI is not a real strong point for me at all. And I really appreciate, the direction that you've kind of pointed me in over the last couple of weeks here, over the last couple of months, actually, since we've met. So how are you doing? How are things going?
Good. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It's good. I moved to Detroit, loving it here. Just doing the same old AI in education. It's been a crazy past few months. Super excited to talk about this. Super excited to kind of get into whatever we're going to talk about. I'm excited.
Yeah. Have you become a Detroit Lions fan?
Oh yeah. Big Lions fan, big Tigers fan now. See, I'm from Montana, like you mentioned. So I would say it's one of the only states where I can pick because we don't have any teams there. So it's kind of a fun, I now have a reason to care about a sports team, which is fun.
Good for you. Well, I'm over in Wisconsin here and we are big Packer fans, so you better watch yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, so let's get started. We like to look at, why, what, how, and some of this work. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get where you're at? And a little bit about, why you decided to move into this direction, that work in AI and connecting it to education.
So pretty much, I graduated my undergraduate degree from USD in industrial engineering, like you mentioned, and I wasn't ready for the real world yet. So I decided that I wanted to get a master's degree. And while I was getting my master's degree, I kind of had some time to do some extra work. And thankfully, I was reached out to by one of my professors and a different AI education company I was working for before. They kind of introduced me to this space. And right when I started working there, the thing I kind of uncovered, I would say, is that the key to making the correct AI education platform, or even to understand AI in education, you really have to go to the problem. That's what I learned in industrial engineering. Go to where the problem is occurring. So what I did is I just started interviewing students because I was like, I don't know much about this. I want to see how people are using it. I started interviewing teachers, students. I interviewed almost 1,000 people, like an absurd amount of people. And I learned so much. I learned that so many different kids were thinking about it in so many different ways. And then I kind of took that. I have a bit of a technical background. I worked on building the AI pipelines in one of my other companies I worked for. So it was super cool. I got to understand what they needed and what I could do to fix that. And then what happened is I graduated my master's school. I kind of was out of the space, but then all these updates started coming out. All these different companies started popping up. And I was like, I really, really want to get back into AI in education because I just think, Scott, because the AI is going to boom into the real world coming soon. And I believe it starts in education. And that's where I want to be, as I want to be where AI starts, because that's where, I learned about AI in college. And I feel like I was the first people to kind of do that. So the AI education is really where AI in the real world kind of like starts. So what I just, it's something I'm very passionate about. I think there's so many opportunities to kind of change the script in society as a whole with AI in education, which I'm sure we're going to get into about how kids that have been kind of put in the dark due
Mhm.
to like learning disabilities, like bad communities, things like that, like they can now come to the light. And I just think there's so much opportunity if we really listen to the people that are in it. And then the last thing I want to say about this is that I really saw a lot of teachers that really needed help. I was attending webinars on Saturdays, Sundays to kind of just, learn what people were teaching people about in this space. Cause, a lot of these paid webinars are just people kind of making a quick buck off of teaching teachers how to use AI. And I just saw a community that needed help. And these people are underpaid, overworked, and they're taking so much time on their weekends paying with their own money to learn AI. And it was just like, it was incredible to me. It's just, they needed help. And that's something that I'm really passionate about for the student side and now the teacher side. And yeah, that is kind of a long answer to that question, but that's why I'm here today, I
Yeah.
would say.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. And as I listened to you on Rachel's podcast, I just loved your perspective and on education and the experience that you've gone through, right? It really resonated with me. The fact that, connecting to the current system is hard for many students, right? And you kind of live that, so again, I could really relate. So, you know, tell us, why do you think our educational, system needs to change?
Well, I wouldn't say it needs to like change. I mean, it needs to change, but really what it needs to do is kind of like adapt to new technology. I mean,
Right.
like the same thing happened when a computer came out. The same thing happened when a calculator came out. This is the first time that I feel like students really are leading the charge. And I think that's like what it needs to change about is it needs to be more open-minded. The conversation needs to be more open because it's weird. Like not very often the students know a lot more than the teachers do
Hmm.
because the students were the first adopters. And that I mean that's just really why it needs to change because it's just like everyone's confused. Everyone's flipped on their head. And what needs to happen is like we have this tool now that can really adapt and change the lives of every student that touches it. But like what we need to do is we don't need to force things on people. We just need to open a dialogue. The conversation needs to be had like, hey, as a teacher, what could I use a little extra help with? It's not like, hey, you've been doing this thing for 40 years, throw that in the garbage, completely start over. We're doing this with AI.
Hmm.
It's like we need to be like, hey, what's hard for you? What can we make your like how can we make your life easier? And like that's where AI comes into play. And then that's the same translation for students. I mean, it's like students struggle with things like learning disabilities. Some students like don't feel comfortable talking in class, and that's what makes humans special, in my opinion, is the differences. Like what you lack, others gain, and that's how we kind of grow as societies, learn from one another. I feel like AI allows for students to have this like personalized learning along with kind of like building confidence when they couldn't build confidence. So like someone has a learning disability, like dyslexia. I know lots of people that really struggle reading in class. Like, a teacher passes out a handout and students with dyslexia, it's really hard for them to read that handout in the same amount
Hmm.
of time as a student who doesn't have dyslexia. And that's not anyone's fault. That's not the teacher's fault for giving them something that they can't read. That's just society. And we've never had something up to this point that can change that. But with AI, we now have the capability of a student with dyslexia can upload that thing to a quick AI, give them a summary, and they can now participate in class. And that can change the lives of the students everywhere. I
Right.
mean, I know kids that just don't participate because they can't read as fast as other people. And when you can get that quick summary, you have an understanding of what people are talking about. Confidence is built, and then you can participate in class, like fostering learning and also fostering a better relationship with teachers and students. And I mean, there's just so many applications, but it shouldn't be seen as like we need to flip education on its head. It should be, hey, there's this new calculator that can do everything. Let's see how it can
Mhm.
like make everything just a little easier. And we don't want to make the whole thing harder, but it's just, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, no, it's well said. It's funny you say that, right when the calculator first came out, the same thing was kind of like when, related a little bit to cell phones, but when the calculator came out, it's like people didn't want to use it.
Yeah.
But look what happened. Now our calculators are right on our phones. So yeah, I know it's really interesting to think about the impact of what AI can have or will have. But you've committed yourself to this work. I think that says a lot about you at your age, right?
Mhm.
You're younger, just graduated college, so you are a Gen Zer, which is great. I love talking to you guys. But you've recently lived it, that educational system. So what do you feel we need to be doing in education related to CTE and careers, maybe some of those community connected pieces, real world pieces to see education become more relevant to students?
So the first thing I think is one of my professors from college gave me this analogy with AI, like right when it came out, 2019, like right when ChatGPT got released. He said AI is like being good at using AI is like being a master chef. So like if you know how to chop onions and you know how to season ingredients really, really well, you can tell a bunch of sous chefs to make a gorgeous dish and you don't even have to you have to do 100th of the work that you would have had to do before. But if you don't know how to chop onions and you don't know how to season parts of the dish, you're not going to be able to tell people how to do it. And I think what education kinds of needs to start focusing on is the process. It's the how to chop onions, it's how to season stuff. And then that can foster critical thinking. And then what we can really change into is like, okay, now that you know how to approach a problem and you know like how to think about a problem, we
Mm,
now have this tool that can make busy work, busy tasks much easier. And it's like you said, just like the calculator, I mean, I was in math class in my engineering degree that were really hard math classes, and you couldn't use a calculator because you're learning to chop the onions. But then when I go outside of school and I have to do those hard math problems using a calculator, I can think through it so much more logically. So,
mm,
like, what I really think is education needs to sort of shift into, hey, how do those processes, like, how do we break down a problem? How do we
mm,
learn to critically think? And this is just such an interesting subject, too, when you get into, like, should third graders be using AI? It's like, I don't really know. I haven't been in that space yet, but in college students, what I really see is kids don't know how to think critically and they're using AI to just do.
mm,
And that needs to change because if we just give people AI and don't teach them like what it does, how it works, how it can help them, it's just a doing tool. And then you lose that critical thinking. When I think if you focus on fostering critical thinking and like using AI tools that kind of like I don't want to use foster twice, but foster you to like critically think, it's you can just learn to do everything. Like it's AI upskilling, all of that kind of stuff. And it's like,
yeah.
I think we really need to teach students the process of thinking critically and how AI can like eliminate a lot of that busy work that would have like halted that critical thinking. And yeah, I think that answered the question.
Yeah, no, that is good because that is the big fear, right? I mean, that we're gonna hand these types of tools off to our students and they're gonna use them, to take care of what's expected of them in the classroom. And that's not really what we want to have happen. So we're all a little nervous about it. To some degree with this, I like how you say that. How do we break down the barriers? Because you're going to have, we're seeing this at the college level. We're not seeing AI quite as prevalent in our, K-12
Yeah.
systems. But how do we break down the barriers so we're able to advance, allow it to be an asset and a resource for our students and our teachers?
Well, one thing is like keep the happiness in learning, I guess. Like I said at the beginning,
Yeah.
it's that like teachers are overworked. And like that's hard. Like that would be hard every day to show up and teach kids something when you're tired. And like what this can do is AI can allow for teachers to have more time to do things that they became a teacher. Like I've given a few speeches at colleges, and the first thing I always say is like how many of you became teachers to answer emails at 1 in the morning? Like, how many of you became teachers to write syllabuses? It's like
Right.
you don't get very many hands raised. And it's like, how many of you became teachers to like ignite a passion inside of a student or something like that? Hands just shoot up. And really, like, that's what I think AI is here for. And like, that's how education can kind of, like, I don't know how to say this, like, kind of move forward, I guess, is that it can allow teachers to focus on what they're doing. And then through that, they can keep students excited to keep learning. And like, if we keep students excited to be learning,
Yeah.
then AI is only just going to be a tool. Like if a kid goes to school and is excited to hear about what his teacher is going to say, then like that fear of AI just doing everything for students is going to go away. So like I think the key to making AI not ruin education has nothing to do with like necessarily AI. I think it has to do with the whole
Mm.
idea of like education itself. Like kids are kind of losing that passion. And I think some of teachers are too. Like I know teacher burnout
Yeah.
rate is at the highest it's ever been. And I just think this is a solution to that issue. And it's like, I think that can just like, I'm kind of beating around the bush here, but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is that like we just want to keep kids excited. And if kids can be excited and teachers can be not overworked and dead at work every day, it's like that's how we don't ruin education with AI. And yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
would
no,
say.
that's I think you're hitting it. Because students, how do they see it, right? How do they see AI? How can we help them see AI? How can we help blend this into it being involved in our career readiness, our academic readiness within our school? So how do you think students, how do they feel about it? What are you seeing as that AI connection to education out of our students?
Well, I mean, this is opening a whole other can of worms. It's so interesting. It's like, I
Open it
mean,
up. Go
the
ahead.
whole new advancement is so crazy. And the
Mhm.
one thing I think that is necessary is that like collaboration. Like if students and teachers can work together using AI, like that is how everyone learns. But the
Yeah.
funny thing is how students are feeling about this is really odd. I'm only going to speak for college students. I haven't spoken to many high school students or below that about this exact subject, but college students, like especially my age and like a few years younger than me, right when AI came out, it was this weird like I'm using it, but I'm going to hide it because I don't want my teacher
Oh,
to
wow.
know that I'm using it because it's bad. Because I mean, I'm sure it was the same for K through 12. Like as soon as that came out, people were like, no, like you're not allowed to use this. If you get caught using this, there's AI detectors and chat GBT in the syllabus. And so it kind of like built this like I don't know how to say it, like divergence between teachers and students. And then it kind of made students silo themselves in AI usage
Yeah.
so that they don't talk about it. So, like, I'm even like my new job, I'm out asking kids how they use AI. And I mean, it takes me a few times talking to them before they'll really tell me how they're using it. And it's because there's this like walls built up around each other that like I'm not going to tell people how I'm using it because it's bad in education. And then like the new thing that's coming out is are these models getting too good? Like the paid version of ChatGPT, is any student going to really need what that premium ChatGPT can offer? And then
Mm.
it's just this whole other subject about like is the free version of ChatGPT good enough for all of these kids? Or like, do the students even know the difference? Do the students know what they're doing? And I think what happened is that, like I said, students didn't want to talk to teachers about it. And teachers didn't really want to talk to students about it because they didn't really know about it. So there was this like weird gap in like the education of what's going on. So like really what I think needs to happen is like I said before, open up the dialogue. Everyone needs to like I'm not going to get in trouble if I tell you what I'm using it for, kind of thing. And everyone needs to just work together and talk about how they're using it. Because right now, I do think even if teachers are saying it's okay to use, students still have that weird feeling of like, I'm not supposed to be using this, so I'm not going to tell you how I'm using it. I had students when I asked them a question on an interview ask me not to put it on LinkedIn or post it anywhere because they were so concerned that their teacher was going to see it. Crazy.
Yeah, that
Super.
is. Yeah, you identify some of the roadblocks a little bit. Are there more? And how do we get over some of these?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's infinite roadblocks. And the key to breaking through all of this is collaboration. Like, I think if a teacher can see how a student's using it, it's not only going
Yeah.
to like open their eyes to see that they're not using it to cheat, they're using it to like help them do things that were hard for them before. Like, everyone learns. Like, if me and you can sit there and I can see how you use AI and you can see how I use AI, I guarantee you it's different ends. We do so many different things, but I guarantee you if I watched you do it, I would learn a lot. And I think that's really what needs to happen is everyone kind of just needs to like open the floodgates and be like, okay, we're almost starting over with this stuff. I need to see how you're using it and we need to learn about all of it, I guess, is like, because when you say ChatGPT, and this is back to the student conversation, it's like AI is ChatGPT in the eyes of students. I mean, there's a
Hmm.
few kids
Yeah.
I talk to that know what Claude is or use Gemini or use Perplexity, but like you walk up to the average college student, 99% of them are going to say AI is ChatGPT. And even some teachers. And it's like, that's not it. I mean, AI, ChatGPT is generative AI. Like AI is neural networks, predictive models, like all of these different things. And I just think everyone needs to kind of like like take a big deep breath and kind of just open up the conversation and be like, okay, guys, like let's all see how we're all using this and see what we need help with, and then use it to make our lives easier, not flip it all on their head and start over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Let's talk a little bit about, the direction of students and the purpose behind education and, maybe how AI kind of fits into that. I was listening to your podcast with Rachel. You made the comment that students often make decisions about what they're good at rather than, what they're intrigued by. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about what you mean by that.
Well, so it's like most of the time, if you ask college students, like, why are you doing what you're doing? It's like, oh, I'm an engineer because I'm good at math, or I'm going into medicine because I am good at science, or I'm good at reading for being a lawyer and stuff. And like me personally, I did engineering because I was good at math and I wanted to know about like numbers more, I guess, but I wasn't necessarily super interested in it right when I started. Like I was by the end of it, but I love my dad's a lawyer. I always wanted to be a lawyer, and I just am horribly terrible at reading and writing. It takes me a long time to read and it takes me a long time to write. And kind of like Rachel's gave me some questions and it really made me think about that kind of stuff. And I was like,
Mm.
well, okay, students most of the time do what they do because they're good at it. And that's like the path that's easiest for them. But what AI can do is like, there's a calculator for reading now. Like if I would have had AI freshman year of college, I really do think I would have done different things because it just opens the doors for me to like, if
Right.
I'm a hard worker, I can do anything now. Like there's no, I don't want to say there's no excuses because there are so many excuses for so many situations and different kids, but like if you have a good AI tool and you know how to use it, I mean, I can read and write just, I mean, almost better than other people that don't use AI. And that like kind of goes back to my chef analogy, which is funny. It's like AI, if someone's really, really good at what they do, I think someone that is really, really good at AI that doesn't know anything about what they do can almost be as good as them at what they do. But AI can allow for people to like be super, super good at what they do if they know how to do it, like the chopping onions thing. So like I think, has the capability to open like so many doors in society to allow students to do things that they would have never been able to do before because they didn't have a teacher that wanted to spend extra time with them. They have learning disabilities that go unseen for their whole educational system. It's like AI can kind of like give any student a chance to do anything they want because it's so personalized and it can like allow for personalization, I think. I don't know
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that.
And when you were having that conversation with Rachel, you did talk about, how it can open up opportunity for students in all areas. And you talked a little bit about that entry into like CTE areas, the career technical, the career exploration areas. You identified it as it's a way to create a desire to learn. And I thought that was a really bold statement. Talk a little bit more about that. How can AI, how does it create that desire to want to learn and move in a direction? Because ultimately, in our school systems right now, one of the biggest pain points is that we have students that are disengaged, actively disengaged. They're not, they don't see relevance in the school system. So, in what ways, talk a little bit about how that can open up that opportunity in those career areas.
Well, I mean, I think that starts at the beginning, I guess. Like what happens is like, why is a student disengaged? They're tired because they are, in college, from my experience, what I would say is like, why is a student disengaged in college? It's because they're working two jobs outside of college. It's because they have a learning disability and they go to class they work really hard, they fail, they don't know what's wrong, the teacher doesn't support them, and then it becomes frustrating. And that's, I mean, I think it's the same for K through 12. I mean, kids have troubles at home. They do bad at school. And it's like the reason they don't do well in school isn't necessarily because they're not smart. And I think that's one thing that needs to change in society is that, when some kid is being causing a ruckus in class, I mean, 95% of the time, it's not because it's a bad kid. It's because there's something going on that you don't really understand. And I think AI has the capability to like make that student feel like they have a chance. It's like it can make them feel listened to. I mean, I know my sister has learning disabilities and she's been able to like kind of be like, I am smart, teacher. Like, look at this. I just struggled with reading. You didn't have the time or resources to help me. I now have something that can help me. Like, hey, world, look at me. I'm here now. Like, that's the thing that I think AI has the capability to change. It's like, give that student that just got dealt a bad hand of cards, like the capability to kind of make it out of that. And it's affordable. They don't have to go to expensive tutors. Like there is real personalization for students that have never had the time or opportunity to get that. And I think what it does is it just like can make that student feel like, hey, I'm not stupid. I'm actually smart. I just think differently than others. And it's like that neurodivergent community, I think, is the biggest
Mm.
one that's really going to come to the light out of this. It's that, society makes people feel dumb when they don't think the way others do. And that is what I think AI can really change. And I think it can just really give students like, if a kid's disengaged and they can only think about school in terms of football, it's like, cool. ChatGPT can do that for them. And it's
Mhm.
like, it just allows for students to kind of learn however they want if those resources are provided. And
Right.
that's kind of like, and then that gets into a whole other conversation is like, do we teach AI usage or do we teach like critical thinking? And it's like, I don't know yet. I mean, it's also new, but I just really think that it gives students the capability to do things their way that don't need, extensive time, money, resources to do that, like to get that personalization. And I think that's what's so exciting about the future.
Yeah, it almost, goes against that one size fits all model that we've
Yeah.
developed, right, as an
Yeah.
educational system, which in that sense it overlooks individual styles. It also overlooks individual needs.
Yeah.
And boy, it seems like AI can help us close that gap if we embrace it. And
Yeah. I mean,
that's
and teaching modalities, like this is one of the biggest things. It's like if you learn visually, like if you're a visual learner and you're a teacher, you're probably going to teach as a visual learner. You know what I mean? It's like AI kind of has the capability to translate learning modalities. I should have said that in the last answer, but it's like
yeah,
if a
that,
student's really good at listening and they really don't like reading, it's like, cool, you can change that now. And it's like a teacher now doesn't have to like change lesson plans every week to teach to different students. It's like a teacher can teach the way that they see fit and then translate it using artificial intelligence to the students that don't like see eye to eye on those learning
mm,
modalities. And it's just yeah, it's great for everyone because it's like you can't expect a teacher to teach to everyone because it's hard. And it's like you
right.
can't expect students to learn the same. And that's what I think needs to kind of like it's not going to change education. It's going to change how we like use education and how education is
Mm.
like I don't know. It's so hard. It's something I think about every day and I can't like put direct words to it, but it's just a way for people to kind of meet in the middle, I guess. I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. It makes me wonder though, if a teacher was sitting here going, "Wow, I'm really nervous. I just don't know." I mean, you're saying a lot of great things. What advice would you give them? What are, like what are one or two, maybe three steps to get
Oh,
started?
just acknowledge it. It's like I know it's scary. It's horrifying. And that's like one thing. I mean, that's why I do this. That's why I like coming on podcasts and talking to teachers, like talking towards the audience of teachers. It's that like, hey, I understand that. I mean, I don't understand, but like I see that you are in a really horribly difficult and scary position. And it's like the steps that I would take is just start, is just go mess around with it Reach
Mhm.
out to me if you have any questions. I would love to tell you about how I learned about it. But it's just also different. It's like go on ChatGPT, go figure out like what it is. Just start. Just go on LinkedIn. Follow me and Scott on LinkedIn. Just start reading. And it's like, I know you don't have time, but take 20, 30 minutes on the weekend or after school, 1 day a week and kind of take a lesson plan and be like, hey, how can I ask AI? How can I use AI to make my life easier?
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, I know it's hard to say, but kind of be vulnerable, I guess. Just reach out, ask for help. I'd love to help you if you're looking for help in AI. It's hard. It's a complicated thing, but it's not that hard. It's like it's scary, but once you start using it, it's I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a hard answer.
it is. We've conditioned ourselves through our educational process. I call this A to Z thinking in schools. It's we provide you with a new knowledge, we have you practice that, and then we test you on it. And really, what you're asking people to do here is to do the Z to A approach, which is I've got the problem. Now I got to figure out and find the resources to be able to go out and solve that problem. And AI is such a great resource to help, with that problem solving direction to find that solution. But
Yeah.
hey,
And
I love your tagline, educate education.
yeah.
That was one of the things I noted right away. I said, why this young guy, he's bold. That's a powerful statement. Tell us a little bit, what is that? What's the vision behind your tagline, education?
Well, the way that started was really interesting. It was after a webinar that I kind of like said that was I kind of realized that like a lot of these poor teachers are kind of getting conned. You know what I mean? Like they're showing up to these webinars, like paying money to have someone teach them how to use AI that like doesn't really help them. And I was like, we need to educate these people on like the whole community. And like this goes back to your last question, like how do you start on this? It's like go do research on the company that you're going to try to use AI. If you don't see any education in the education AI company, like if you don't see any teachers, that's the first thing. Like,
Mm,
don't do that. Like, you got to start with a company that cares about education. I mean, that's why I'm in the role I am today, is that like, and the company I'm working for today is because that's what they focus on. And I think that is 100% necessary. And it's like, education just needs to understand that, like, this isn't going to flip their head. This isn't going to flip them on their head. It's like we need to educate education on the concept that like this is here to help you. This isn't here to take your job. This isn't here to make college completely online taught by robots. It's like this is to make it so that if you need to make three lesson plans for your next 3 days in class and you don't have time, this is to make you a better teacher. And you need to become educated on how it can make you a better teacher. It's like AI, I say, makes a bad teacher good and a good teacher incredible. And that's
mm.
like what we can do. And if school systems, if administrative staff like take 20 minutes to teach their teachers about it. Paul Matthews, a person I follow on LinkedIn, is a great person to look at. He says there's two T's in education: uh, teaching and time off. It's like teachers need to be taught about this stuff, and then they need to like not be run into the ground, expected them to like learn AI in 2 weeks. And I really think that's like what education is all about, is just that like we all need to understand what's going on. It's not a scary thing that's going to ruin our lives. It's something here to help you and give you your life back, almost, is what I would say. And it's like, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a great
Yeah.
thing for education. It needs to be done right. And I don't think there's very many companies that do it right because what's a better place to make money off people when people are really scared and vulnerable. And it's like that is what is hard, and that's why I think you need to find a good company. That's why I almost left and now I'm back. It's like you got to find a good
Yeah.
group of people that are in it for the right reasons, that can educate you correctly. And yeah, that's what I would say. And that's changed since the first time I said it. The first time I was like, AI is not bad and education needs to understand that it's not bad. But the more that I say it, it's more like we just need to educate each other that this is all going to be okay and that it's here to help.
Well, that goes into, what does that approach look like? Because we still stand super firm on the achievement, right? Closing the achievement gap, and that looks like, academics and in learning those academics through our system. So, we're we're really moving towards that relevancy in our system to include career community, connectedness. So how does that align? When we start to connect our students to real world, real life opportunities through careers and community, what are some thoughts on, how AI can help within the classroom around those types of needs?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with collaboration first. It's like you're never going to go to a job and not work with anyone. And like that's kind of what happens in AI is that like if I'm using ChatGPT, I can't use ChatGPT with my classmate. Like we might use it at the same time, but we can't use it together. And it's like I think if we open up human and AI collaboration where numerous
Oh,
humans can work with numerous AIs, that's how we prepare people for the real world. It's not teach students how to use ChatGPT because like newsflash, ChatGPT does not care about education. Like ChatGPT is on a race to the moon to create AGI. And the reason that we use their stuff is to, give them money to do that and data. And that's like educate education. Like people don't really understand that. And like we need
mm,
to just collaborate with one another. We need to teach students how to use AI like practically. So it's like, hey, if I'm working on this project and me and this other student are working on this project, like we can get it done a lot faster if we work together and use AI. But it's not good for two students to work on projects, bump it in ChatGPT, get an answer, not even read either of the things, turn it
right.
in, and walk out of the classroom. It's like it needs to be collaborative. It needs to be collaborative between teachers and students. It needs to be collaborative between students and AI and teachers. Like it's just here to help. And I feel like people think it's here to do. And like the way, I mean, in my opinion, like I said, why I am where I am today is because you need collaboration. You
Mhm.
need to be able to work together and you need to be able to like see different AIs. Like back to the beginning of our conversation, like 90% of college kids, if you ask them, hey, what's AI? It's like they'll say ChatGPT. There's
Right,
a lot more out there than that. And it's like
right.
the other thing, I mean, I'm just talking about this on LinkedIn is like, is the best model what education needs? Like, is the newest, greatest model what education needs? Or is it something that kind of like fosters learning and fosters collaboration and fosters like what we were talking about earlier, like the desire to learn,
Right.
and I think that is all the difference between like ChatGPT is not a tool; it's an open platform that people can use for literally everything, and that's not what education needs. They need something that's like to foster thinking and foster growth and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
it's really interesting how you describe that because as I sit here, I'm thinking about, yeah, I kind of had that same fear. And if I was a teacher, I'd have that fear that if I open up the gates to an AI platform, that's what they're going to use to get to the answer. And that's such American way of education, right? We provide new knowledge, want them to practice, and then we're going to test them on something that's at A to Z. And they're going to use AI to go get that answer versus I'm hearing you say we could use AI to become better at those durable skills of problem solving, critical thinking, being creative, having curiosity. And
Yeah,
in a sense, if we can embed that thinking, that's gonna shift mindsets in its own, right? That's really
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, once you show a student like what they can do, like how smart you really are with this tool, rather than like, whoa, it wrote a paper for me. That's super cool. It's like once you teach a student that like they can talk with someone that's like dead on the internet. You can ask ChatGPT to fake be Teddy Roosevelt and talk with me like you're Teddy Roosevelt. It's like that's how a teacher gets a third grader excited about school. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
there's so many opportunities that this can really foster growth and creativity and all of this stuff. But it all starts with like not siloing yourself, also not siloing yourself to
right.
one AI platform and like being open, like being okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try mixing these two things together. I'm going to try working with my friend on AI. And then the other cool thing that I'm just now becoming super, super passionate about is that AI allows for like crazy translation between different groups of people. I mean, it's like you can, if you use collaborative AI, you can have students in another country working with students that don't speak the language as them because AI
Right.
can translate between that. And it's just, I don't know. I think the sky's the limit. It's going to be super, super exciting to see what's happening. And I just think for teachers, students, like the key is collaborating and the key is like being vulnerable, being like, hey, I don't really know how to use this stuff, but I understand that it's powerful. And it's like, yeah, it's just collaboration. I think
Yeah,
that's the
it's
answer.
key. Yeah, I like it. I think it's great. I mean, you've opened my eyes with it, that's for sure. And I'm glad I met you regarding it. Being a little bit older, I get a little nervous around some of this technology stuff. I gotta admit, back in the day when I was your age, we still dialed the phone like this,
Yeah.
just to let you know. But so tell us a little bit about you and BoodleBox.
Yeah.
I know that, we met before you started there, but you really like what they can offer, the company, the AI platform. I think you're kind of speaking to the fact around collaboration, and this is a platform that potentially could allow for that to happen. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about BoodleBox.
Yeah, well, so I was out of the AI education game. Like I was done with it. I stopped posting on LinkedIn. I was kind of ready to go get a real job. I don't know, real job's a weird word, but I
Works.
was gonna go get a big boy job somewhere. But what happened is, see, the CEO reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, check it out. I just like you to kind of see what we got going on over here." And I taught, like I said, I talked to tons of teachers at the end of my AI education journey, and it was insane. It answered every concern that every teacher had, and I didn't think it was real right away. I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. How'd you do this? And really, what BoodleBox is a collaborative generative AI platform that allows for students, teachers, and AIs to cohesively live and work in one like space is what I would say. Every top of the line model, custom models, all of that stuff, it's all built into this one platform. So if I'm comfortable with ChatGPT and that's all I want to use, it's in BoodleBox and I can use it by itself. But I
Mm,
can also use it if I'm a teacher. I could have 20 students in my class in one chat in ChatGPT, like a Google Doc, is what I
right.
say, because that's what people understand is that like, and that's what answers that problem with teachers not knowing what to do. It's
Mm,
like if a teacher could see how students use AI, they're going to learn so much and they're going to see, wow, like, I was said professors are really smart people, but like they're professors at colleges. And what happens is like if they see students using AI the way that they do use it, they're going to learn how to use it themselves. And that
right.
was a thing that I couldn't figure out. I was like, I don't know how we're ever going to solve this problem. I don't know how we're ever going to get teachers to actually see how students are using it. And BoodleBox answers that question. It's like a teacher can do a workshop in a chat with all of their students, seeing how they're prompting. And this is something that Jason Gulia on LinkedIn is really, he talks about it's the process, it's not the end goal. It's like you said, it's A to Z or Z to A, not A to Z. And it's like BoodleBox like can allow for teachers to grade how students write a paper with AI. And they can even use AI to understand how students are
Mm,
using AI. And they built all of these bots that are made for teachers that like instead of expecting a teacher to know how to be an expert prompt engineer. Another thing that I was super concerned about is like, how are you going to get some teacher that barely knows how to use a computer able to prompt an AI super well? You have to have that AI prompt you. And that's exactly what BoodleBox does. It's like if you ask, hey, I want a lesson plan on World War II, it'll be like, okay, how many students? For what age group? What kind of collaboration are you looking for? And it's
mm,
like that is how AI in education should be used, in my opinion. And that's when I dropped everything else I was doing. And I was like, this is the right answer. I think this could save so many people so much stress and anxiety. And the team's great. It's like the smartest group of people I've ever been around. It's
mm.
incredible. And everyone's in it for the right reason too. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, is that I think there's so many people in this game that are in it for the money, that are in it to make it big time because teachers are vulnerable and people that are vulnerable are willing to kind of do anything to become not vulnerable and scared. And
Right.
they are building communities. I mean, one thing I'm doing is I built an AI campus leadership council. I think I have 32 kids from all over the country and even all over the world. I have a few kids from South Africa, a kid from Rwanda, and kids from all over the United States. And we are working together on BoodleBox. And we have the same thing with teachers. They have a huge campus council of teachers that are all working to make this platform better. And I think that's the key to AI in education. It's collaboration, it's help on prompting, and it's education in technology, not technology in education. And yeah, I mean it's super fun. I love talking about it. I'm excited to go to work every day, and it's just because I think it's the right answer. And I haven't seen something else like that, but it all starts with collaboration. And yeah, it's a super cool company.
Yeah, it does solve a major problem, and that's that trust piece with teachers allowing students to use something new in technology. Your point about having teachers able to see what they're doing, it's a space, it's like a Google Doc, right?
Mhm.
And one of our biggest issues with cell phones in schools is, what are they doing on them, right? It's that social media connection that we don't like. And that's hard to manage in schools with teachers. But, BoodleBox offers the opportunity for a networking taking place within the platform itself where teachers could, keep an eye on it, but also guide students through that. I think it's really kind of cool. I had a
Yeah,
chance. Yeah.
and they can learn from students.
Yes,
That is the number one
man.
thing for me is that they can see, like I said, be vulnerable, acknowledge, like, hey, I don't really know what kids are using it for. So, like, what's the best way to do it is be like, hey, write a paper with AI, an English teacher, write a paper with AI and turn in how you wrote with AI. And it's like, teachers are going to be mind blown how smart and not lazy their kids are, because that's the number one thing that I would get super fired up about is when a teacher thinks a student is lazy for using a
Hmm.
resource that is there to make their life better. And I just think it's like, again, I mean, they're scared, they feel like their profession is going to be thrown in the garbage because of
Hmm.
this thing that came out. But it's like you can really see how intelligent and cool your students are with this new technology that they have. And like, I don't know. I just think it's super cool. And then the other side of it, it's like middle school, K through 12 teachers. It's like this thing is built to help you learn AI. Like you can slowly but surely become an AI expert using different bots to do things that then will slowly allow you to do more. And that's what was missing before. I mean, it's like if you toss a teacher in ChatGPT, it's pretty stupid to think that they're going to be able to like gain anything out of it
Hmm.
if they have no idea what it is, you know? It's
Right.
like I don't know.
Yeah, I actually spoke with France just this week, and because I said to him, I go, K-12 could benefit from a platform like this, and because your focus has been, more on that higher ed, and he talked about the pilots and some of the things that they're doing, but he was open to, the thought of, grades 9 through 12 to connect, obviously connecting to the platform itself. Teachers can get involved in that just by Googling it and seeking it out, and it's worth the look at for sure. But one of the things we're going to do is I'm gonna do a webcast with France, a shorter one, so he can kind of talk through it, maybe demo it a little bit, and we'd like to
Mhm.
have this webcast along with that one kind of come out at the same time so people can see it, advertise it. I'm hoping maybe he gives me a free subscription for the year if I generate a some users for him, but that'd be kind of fun. So, anyways, did I know that we've talked a little bit about our webcast series, and you and I have talked a little bit about the unconference that we're having, in the spring. Did
Yeah.
you get a chance to look at that webcast, guest list at all, and thought about that unconference that we're going to have April 29th and 30th and May 1st? I think maybe I'm going to have to invite you there.
Yeah. I mean, I love talking. I love talking about this. I love talking to other people. I mean, I would love to be there. I think it's such a unique, like, I think the thing that's so cool about BoodleBox is how it like teaches people how to use it. You know what I mean? It like
Yeah.
teaches people, and even me, like I use some of those custom bots sometimes, and it's like you forget that you leave things out when you're prompting, and like that really like teaches you how to do it. And I think a lot of teachers like need that. I mean, it's like I don't know, like I think it's ridiculous to expect some second grade teacher to be able to like use AI in the classroom. It's like No, it's like they shouldn't be
Yeah.
using AI to teach their kids. They should be using AI so that they don't have to create a new lesson plan every 3 days. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that's what and it teaches you how to do it. And it's like easy and there's a community around it. And I don't know. It's so interesting. It's like the last week I have been just like stuck in thought about the idea of like how ChatGPT is so general. You know, it's like it's not like I need to come up with a better analogy that I have, but it's like ChatGPT is like giving someone a rock and being like, build a house. You know what I mean? It's like if you're really good at building a house, you can do it. Like you can
Yeah.
hammer in all the nails with a rock, but a lot of people need a level and a hammer and things like
Yeah.
that. And it's like that's the thing that I'm just like, I don't know. And the other thing is that like people don't realize that like ChatGPT literally doesn't care. Like the only reason that you can use ChatGPT is so that they can take all of your data and some money. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they don't that's why they don't focus on anything. That's why there's no like ChatGPT education version. It's because it's like it's a race to the moon right now for who
Yeah.
can make AGI, and they're not going to waste a second or a penny on this, you know? And I think that strawberry model like proves that really well.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It goes fast, and that's one of the worries, cautions, and what makes people nervous. So let's do this final question. I ask generally everybody the same question that's on our webcast. So our tag is teach like it's 2045. So what do you feel education is going to look like in the classroom, school itself in 2045?
That's crazy. Well, what I like to think about is like, what did a book look like 100 years
Hmm.
ago? You know, a lot different than it looks right now. But if you look at a classroom 100 years ago, it is literally exactly the same as it looks right now. And I don't
Yeah.
know what's going to change. I don't know if people are going to go online more. I don't know. I have no idea. But what I think could change. I don't necessarily think education is going to look a whole lot different in 2045, but I think the like leaders of society and people that are like doing cool things will change from people who have been doing cool things to people that want to do cool things. That's what I'm gonna leave it with. I know it's a weird
No,
statement,
that's all right.
but
It, it's well said from a Gen Zer, man. That
yeah.
we wouldn't expect anything else from you, Zach. I think that's really great, man. I love your perspectives, though. It's spot on. Hey, if somebody wants to reach out, get in touch with you, how can they do that?
My email is my first dot last name at boodlebox.ai. And boodlebox is spelled like noodle box with a B, is what I like to
Gotcha.
say. And then if not, I mean, you can toss my phone number on here. I do want to like if this is going to go on the webcast, like I would love if a teacher is really struggling with this and really needs help to just like reach out and love to
Sure.
help you. I'd love to talk to you about it. That's like one thing. I've done it a few times with a few individuals, and I think I'm young and I've never been a teacher. I've just gone through the education system, but I do think I kind of understand the like how scared people are and how, you know, the administratives like learn how to use AI and the students are all using AI and there's all these AI on LinkedIn and everything like
Yeah.
this. And it's like I think teachers just need to be like, I'm smart, I'm here, I can do this. Like you teaching fourth grade students or seventh grade students is a whole lot harder than using AI. That's like what I would say.
Yeah.
And you just need to like kind of start doing it. And I know you don't have time, but it's like I would love to give you some tips and tricks. I mean, BoodleBox is incredible. It helps you learn it. And then, you know, there's a few great people on LinkedIn. Connor Kulselback, he's great. There's a bunch of people. Just reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with the right people.
Yeah.
That's what I
Appreciate
would
it.
say. Yeah.
Nothing better than networking and being supportive around that. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. So,
Of course.
well, thanks for joining us today, Zach. And as we depart, remember the future is clear. Take care, everybody.